Hey, what's up, guys? My name's Travis Fodor. I'm a music technology student at New York University, here to help you guys out with some microphones. I'm going to hop right into it because I squeeze a lot of information in here and want to get everything. Um, Topics, some types of microphones, polar pattern, sensitivity, and some practical uses. So we got dynamic mics. This is an SM58, both in the picture and in my video. They're great for live vocal settings. They get a lot of gain through them before you feedback, and they're super durable. How exactly do they work? We didn't go into this, but I figured it would be a nice little addition to my presentation. Basically, you have a process called electromagnetic induction. And what happens is you put a coil in a magnetic field of a magnet and attach it to the diaphragm, which is where you're sending in pressure differences or sound. So what happens is your pressure differences, your voice, your instrument, whatever, vibrates that diaphragm, therefore vibrating the coil, creating a magnetic field, and therefore creates current. So that's sent into the microphone, interpreted through into your interface, and then outputted back as sound again. Cool. Condenser mics, these guys are more prone to feedback. They're much more responsive. I'll talk about that why in a minute, but you see them a lot in studios, a lot of different kinds of uses. And what's great about them is they're not particularly geared towards any sound, so you can work with them for any instrument. Recommended for beginners who are learning how to use mics and stuff like that. For example, this mic has a little bit more bass response and a little bit geared towards vocals, EQing wise and stuff like that. What happens with a condenser mic? You want to think condenser equals capacitor, right? So you have two plates, one really thin and like wibbly, and then one really firm. So what happens is your diaphragm is the middle of those plates, and your sound pressure comes in, and those pressure differences wiggle that thin plate. Thin plate was over here. Wiggle that thin plate, and what happens is the varying distances between those plates is what is interpreted by the microphone, and that's the change of capacitance. So how the change of capacitance is powered by phantom power, first of all. So you have phantom power coming in as voltage, and then that change is measured through the voltage, distances wise, to read as different sounds, and then interpreted into the mic, into your interface, back out as sound. Ribbon mics are really, really sensitive. We didn't talk about these guys, but they're similar circuitry to dynamic mics. They're not cheap, and you'll see why in a second. How do these guys work? Electromagnetic induction, same process, but what happens is you have a ribbon suspended in a magnetic field, and what happens is that sound comes in and wibbles the little ribbon. But what's cool is since the ribbon is two-sided, the polar pattern of this mic can be from figure 8 to omnidirectional. We'll talk about that in a second, but very similar. I'm just going to read off of this one for omnidirectional patterns. Omnidirectional mics are usually dynamic microphones with low sensitivity used to pick up environmental sounds that range in amplitude. Hanging an omni mic above a group of singers or on a guitar fretboard allows the musician to gather the sounds outside the instrument, such as fretboard sliding or leaving crackling under the two people having a conversation. Cardioid or unidirectional mics are used when the producer wants the sound in front, not behind. These are great for live because when they have a monitor coming up, you won't hear any of the sound from the monitor, but they're susceptible to the proximity effect, which is something we didn't talk about. Really quick, basically, when you get closer, you get more bass. That's proximity effect. So if you hear me closer to the mic, the input's a little bit more bassier versus when I'm back here. That could be used to your advantage or disadvantage in the studio or in a live setting. Shotgun and figure 8 mics. Briefly, I want to mention that omnidirectional is actually the main polar pattern along unidirectional. That's just the way my slides are misarranged. Shotgun mics are great for voices and movies and television. For example, you can have a shotgun mic pointing at somebody's mouth or a specific sound that you want to gather in the environment. And the quickest way to make these polar patterns is phase cancellation. We'll get into that another day. Or changes in the actual material in the mic, such as foam or rubber on the sides to squeeze that polar pattern together. It's a little bit about sensitivity. Sensitivity is the ability for a mic to convert acoustic pressure changes into voltage. High sensitivity, you don't need as much power. Low sensitivity, you want more amplification, right? So ribbon mics are really sensitive for another reason, first of all, but the ribbon mic inside is literally thin and malleable, so you wouldn't want to put a bass drum against a ribbon mic and then pound that big kick and blow your ribbon. Directionality patterns are closely related to sensitivity in the sense that an omnidirectional mic isn't going to require that much sound to hear it or to get it to read, because you're going to have a big spread of sound coming through and you want to hear all the little differences. Thanks, guys. Really, squeeze this all in here. Find me on Twitter. Shoot me a message here reviewing my movie, whatever you think, good and bad. And I'll see you guys soon.